Wokeness kills. When it comes to the air traffic controller crisis, the New York Times is reporting that, quote, in the fiscal year that ended September 30th, there were 503 air traffic control lapses that the FAA preliminarily categorized as significant, 65% more than in the prior year, according to internal agency reports reviewed by the Times. During that period, air traffic increased about 4%, end quote. Now, significant lapses include situations in which a plane, which is taking off, is directed into the path of a plane that is landing, to give just one hair-raising example of what's been going on. Whistleblowers are warning that a catastrophe is inevitable at this point. Most air traffic control towers are now operating well below the desired number of certified controllers. That means that many controllers are working up to 6 days a week with 10-hour shifts to fill the gaps. They'll burn anyone out, especially as many of these shifts are swing shifts, and so a controller might get off in the early morning only to be called back in that night. As a result, there's a growing number of reports being called in by other controllers that their colleagues are using drugs or alcohol, sometimes even during their shifts to take the edge off, while using other drugs to either go to sleep and then to wake up, which, side note, is what Jim Jones was doing before he lost his last marbles in a fit of psychotic delusion. And then you have reports of controllers sleeping on the job, physical fights breaking out because they're all cooped up together and angry, and of mold and bugs taking over many of these towers. And even though these positions come with comfortable six-figure salaries and pensions, the FAA is having trouble hiring, and they find that many new hires can't pass the training they offer. And so, with wokeness, they are actively pushing to reduce the importance of AT-SAT standards and those who have healthy minds and bodies. We are increasingly finding ourselves in the midst of a hyper-advanced and interconnected world without enough competent people to keep it going. Our hyper-liberal woke culture pushes people to be their worst, most slovenly selves, instead of aspiring toward discipline and greatness. And funny enough, we have a wide open border with millions streaming across, and yet we still have staffing shortages everywhere you look. So where are all these people going except onto the welfare rolls? The argument we usually hear is that we need to exploit both legal and illegal means of immigration in order to stack the deck in our favor in terms of having more talent here in the U.S. to draw from, while unleashing a brain drain on other countries. But that's not what's happening. We're getting more costly dependents, and somehow we're also suffering the brain drain. I mean, honestly, just listen to what a psychiatrist had the nerve to argue in court about that horrific rape attack on a 15-year-old girl by about a dozen men in Hamburg, Germany, in which of the 9 who did it, only 1 received any jail time, and it was only for 2.5 years. So Nala Same argued on behalf of the defendants, who were largely migrants, who were almost all basically, and they had dragged a girl away from a party in Hamburg Park and raped her repeatedly in the bushes, that it was merely a, quote, means of releasing frustration and anger stemming from their migration experiences and socio-cultural homelessness. That makes so much sense. If only they had said that at the beginning, then maybe they wouldn't have been arrested, because it all works out, right? At least the girl was raped by an ESG-approved amount of diversity. Joining us now to discuss is radio host Andrea Kaye, the host of The Andrea Kaye Show. Andrea, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Great. It's honestly no joke at this point to say that wokeness kills, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you got to hand it to the Democrats, because they've come up with a strategy that's not rooted, it's certainly not rooted in integrity, it's not rooted in principles, it's not rooted in any kind of success, and they can twist it around and contort it to serve whatever narrative they want, whether it has to do with immigration, whether it has to do with employment. And the end result is, and they're fully committed to it, so committed that they don't care who it kills, except that it seems as though they ensure that it's never going to kill one of their own.
Oh yeah, and definitely that always ends up being the thing, right? That it's something that they unleash on the rest of us to have to deal with, because they know they're not the ones who are going to be dealing with it. Though, as a side note, it is interesting, though, to know when it comes to crime, at least, that more and more SJW types are actually becoming the victims of the own crime that they've unleashed on the rest of us. You know, it used to be that they would push for these policies from behind the comforts of their, safe gates and the guards that they get to have having guns. But now it's been creeping up onto them as well. It's one of those things that, the Frankenstein monster, it's going to come and eat you too. Really no one's safe. And I don't think a lot of lefties have fully figured that one out. But one thing that I'm really concerned about with these dropping standards, it's everywhere you look. We can look at what's happening to kids right in schools. The worse they do on tests, then the teachers' unions and all the rest, the Marxists go, well, who needs tests anyways, right? It's all racist anyway, so they just throw it out.